170 million years dominating Earth. More than 10,000 different species. Some even learned to fly. But there's one place no dinosaur managed to conquer: the water. And before you think about plesiosaurs or mosasaurs, neither of them were dinosaurs. They were marine reptiles, completely different. The fact is, there never was a fully aquatic dinosaur. And that's strange. Mammals took only 10 million years to create whales. Snakes managed it. Lizards managed it. So why did dinosaurs, the most successful animals in history, fail? The answer is hidden inside their bones. Literally. In 1983, William Walker found a 31-centimeter claw in a clay quarry in Surrey, England. When paleontologists excavated, they discovered Baryonyx walkeri. And it changed everything we knew about dinosaurs and water. Elongated skull like a crocodile. Conical teeth without serrations, nostrils positioned much further back on the snout. And when they analyzed the fossilized stomach, there were fish scales with marks from digestive acid. This dinosaur fished. Baryonyx was part of an entire family, the Spinosauridae, the most famous Spinosaurus aegyptiacus from North Africa. Here's where it gets interesting. Studies from 2022 on bone density revealed that Spinosaurus bones were significantly denser than other theropods, approaching modern semi-aquatic animals like manatees and penguins. It works like ballast for diving. But even with dense bones, powerful tails, adapted snouts, the Spinosaurs were probably just waders. Shore hunters that entered the water to a certain depth, feet anchored in the muddy substrate. Not true swimmers. Now get ready for something even more strange. Holschoraptor esquili, Mongolia, Upper Cretaceous. Size of a duck. Literally, a velociraptor that decided to become a diver. Short and flattened forelimbs, almost flippers. Disproportionately long and flexible neck. Short tail, shifting the center of gravity forward. Useful for swimming, terrible for running. The snout had sensory neurons concentrated at the tip, detecting vibrations in the water. Teeth curved backward, extremely numerous, a perfect grid for trapping small fish. Semi-aquatic, dividing time between land and freshwater. A radical evolutionary experiment that lasted millions of years, but still didn't cross the finish line. So some dinosaurs clearly tried. What stopped them? Try diving, using a permanent internal life jacket. Pneumatic bones, one of the great evolutionary trump cards of dinosaurs, became an aquatic curse. Hollow bones filled with air sacs connected to the respiratory system. It reduced weight, helped with balance, facilitated breathing at high altitudes. But it made dinosaurs with pneumatic bones extremely buoyant. Living buoys, even modern penguins, with much denser skeletons, need to perform complex breathing exercises before each dive to empty air sacs and reduce buoyancy. Worse still, the air sacs drastically increased the risk of barotrauma, injuries caused by pressure changes during submersion. Deeper, the greater the danger. Some spinosaurids developed denser bones. We saw that. But the bone restructuring process is evolutionarily costly and time-consuming. It would require giving up all the benefits of pneumatization, a dominant competitive advantage on land. And there's more, the eggs. All archosaurs, dinosaurs, crocodiles, pterosaurs, birds, lay eggs with rigid shells of calcium carbonate, perfectly adapted for gas exchanges in air. Fatal underwater. The pores become waterlogged, preventing embryonic respiration. The embryos drown or suffocate. Even modern chickens in environments with excessive humidity can have embryos that die by drowning inside the egg. The solution? Viviparity, giving birth to live young, as mammals and sea snakes do. And here we return to the fact that closes everything. Sea snakes exist. 30% of all snakes give birth to live young, including practically all aquatic ones. And throughout evolution, lizards and snakes developed this ability 115 times. Dinosaurs and their archosaur relatives, 0 times. Maybe 1 or 2 doubtful cases. The calcified and rigid structure of archosaur eggs makes the transition to live births extraordinarily difficult, not impossible, as evolution rarely creates absolute impossibilities, but difficult enough that it never happened successfully in dinosaurs. This fundamental difference explains why sea snakes exist, but marine dinosaurs don't. But wait, suppose that a dinosaur somehow overcame the barriers of bone pneumatization and calcified eggs. It would still face a colossal problem. The niche was already occupied. When the first dinosaurs appeared in the Upper Triassic, about 233 million years ago, the oceans were already teeming. Ichthyosaurs, marine reptiles resembling dolphins, had dominated the waters for tens of millions of years, varying from small species to true leviathans. Shallow waters, nothosaurs and placodonts had already established territories, rivers and estuaries. Phytosaurs, which looked like crocodiles but weren't, competed for fish. And it only got worse. The Jurassic brought long-necked pliosaurs and giant pliosaurs. The Cretaceous brought mosasaurs, the most terrible marine reptiles that ever existed, some exceeding 15 meters in length. Even through the air, there was competition. Pterosaurs, like tapegerrids, developed specializations for fishing, diving to capture fish with surgical precision. For a dinosaur trying to enter this saturated market, the question would be, why abandon terrestrial supremacy to fight for scraps in an environment where you'd be the newcomer? The evolutionary answer was clear: not worth it. But here's the irony. The closest relatives of dinosaurs showed that it was possible for archosaurs to become fully aquatic. Thalattosutians, more specifically, Metriorinchoida, marine crocodiles from the Jurassic and Cretaceous that went beyond. They lost their scales, replacing them with smooth and hydrodynamic skin. Hands and feet became paddle-like. Flippers, 4 of them, a configuration different from modern whales. They developed tails with vertical fins for propulsion. And the crucial detail, fossil evidence suggests that at least some Metriorinchoids may have developed viviparity, an absolute rarity among archosaurs. Morphologically, they looked more like mosasaurs than crocodiles. If dinosaurs had made the complete transition, they would probably look like this. Elongated bodies, hydrodynamic, powerful flippers. Imagine a Spinosaurus or Tyrannosaurus redesigned as a Metriorinchoid. Deadly jaws, but a reptile dolphin body. Scary, yes, plausible. Also, aquatic herbivores could have grazed on marine grasses like modern dugongs, or utilized their defensive structures. Plates, spines, horns, in completely new ways underwater. But it never happened. There was one last chance. 66 million years ago, a 10-kilometer asteroid collided with Yucatan. The KPG extinction eliminated 75% of all species. Almost all non-avian dinosaurs disappeared. In the ocean, the chaos was even greater. Mosasaurs, plesiosaurs, most ichthyosaurs extinct. Suddenly, the seas were empty. Entire ecological niches available. Golden opportunity for any group that could take advantage. But the dinosaurs that survived were birds. And birds, due to the biomechanical demands of flight and their oviduct physiology, weren't in a position to make this transition quickly. Mammals, on the other hand, had already developed viviparity. They didn't need to return to land to lay eggs. Just 10 million years after the extinction, the first primitive cetaceans, ancestors of whales, were already swimming. The window of opportunity opened, but it closed before the birds could cross it. Today we have penguins that spend half their lives in the water, albatrosses that go years without landing on land, loons that hunt fish at 70 meters deep. But no bird is fully aquatic. All need to return to land or ice for reproduction. The problem persists: rigid-shelled eggs incompatible with marine environment. Modern birds have salt glands, an adaptation that allows drinking salt water and expelling excess salt through the nostrils. Extinct marine crocodiles had similar adaptations. But terrestrial eggs remain an absolute limiting factor. Will birds in the distant evolutionary future finally cross this barrier? Hard to say. Viviparity remains extremely rare in archosaurs, so rare that it may simply be an evolutionary route blocked by fundamental genetic and physiological constraints. And frankly, if birds one day become fully aquatic, it will probably mean that Earth has gone through some catastrophic environmental change. So, why did fully aquatic dinosaurs never exist? It wasn't for lack of trying. Spinosauridae and Hashcaraptor prove that evolution experimented. It was a perfect combination of barriers. Pneumatic bones functioning as permanent life jackets, rigid shelled eggs drowning embryos underwater, almost total inability to develop viviparity, 115 times 4. Lepidosaurs, 0 for archosaurs, brutal competition from marine reptiles that already dominated every ecological niche. And size. The average dinosaur weighed 3.85 tons, making the transition evolutionarily more expensive. Each barrier individually could have been overcome, but altogether, insurmountable. Dinosaurs were the undisputed kings of the land for 170 million years. But the oceans remained out of reach, an empire they would never conquer. And perhaps there's something poetic about that. Even the most successful have limits. Even the titans have boundaries they cannot cross. If this journey through the waters that dinosaurs never dominated fascinated you, the next video here on Vittoria Extenta will explore something even more surprising. The animals that managed to make this transition, and how they paid the price for it. Subscribe to the channel until the next adventure in deep time.